Today we're going to do a high-level walkthrough of the Razer Huntsman mini analog wired gaming keyboard. This is part of the Best Buy Tech Insider Network review program. So taking a look at the keyboard, if you're not familiar with what a mini keyboard is, it's roughly 60% the size of a normal keyboard. That's accomplished primarily by getting rid of all the extra function keys and volume keys and numeric keypad and so on. The actual keyboard itself, even though it looks really tiny in my hands, medium large hands, these are all standard size keys. So you're not sacrificing anything, you're just getting rid of the extraneous keys that you typically don't use in the gaming process anyway. So plenty of stats and information available on the website so you can see what it is. One of the things that's kind of interesting that is really not highlighted, but it's a combination analog and optical keyboard. I'll explain what that means in a minute, but you kind of get the best of both worlds as far as a mechanical feel to the keyboard, but the ability to treat each switch as an analog device. And again, I'll explain why that's important in a minute. In terms of what you get, what it looks like, so standard box, attractive enough. One thing that's nice is you get a super long keyboard cord. So this is, I didn't measure it, but roughly 5-6 feet. It's important to note that it's a USB 3, requires USB 3 port. So initially I plugged this into a USB 2 port off the back of a hub. I got nothing. So I had to plug it into my USB 3 port to get lights and keyboard action and so on. The other nice thing is that the back of the keyboard disconnects here, right? So you've got a nice detachable key. So if you got to route it around something, it also makes it a little bit easier to store and transport as far as I'm concerned. And then this has grooves in the end to make sure that it stays in there good and tight. So the keyboard is a braided the cable is a braided cable. Seems well made and durable. Here's the close-up of what that looks like. But just to highlight, you can see on the fronts of all these keys different secondary functions. So you don't have to give up anything in terms of the functionality of the keyboard. If occasionally you need to push up arrow or down arrow, then you just hold the function key, and in this case the K for down arrow, right? If you want to mute or change the volume, all of that stuff is here, just like it would be on a full-size keyboard. But they really wanted to keep it streamlined for gaming purposes only. Again, on the physical side, it's nice, it's heavy duty, it feels solid. There's probably some metal inside to weight it down so it doesn't slide around too much. It's got 2 levels of retractable legs, so you can either have one of these notches up or both of these notches up. The keyboard illumination is nice. Let me zoom in a little bit here and see what that looks like. So the colors are nice and crisp. Nothing is washed out. Nothing is bleeding through. Again, it's a good sturdy keyboard. Just to give you an example on the screen here of what that looks like compared to a full-size gaming keyboard. Again, what I'm trying to illustrate is that these keys are every bit as large as these keys. So you're not sacrificing anything in terms of travel or typing on that. There's another view with that on the top. Again, exact same size keys, exact same layout. I'll go into this hands-on a little bit, but you can assign each key can be assigned a different color. So on the less expensive keyboards, it's all one color or nothing. This allows you to assign different key effects. And it's one of the easier ones to use, actually. If you look at some of the other gaming keyboards, they can get kind of complex in how you set that up. But kind of the stealth power that I'm really excited about is the ability to control the travel. So again, because each key is analog, this means you can control the sensitivity of each key. How hard do you have to push before it registers it as a key press But not only that, there's degrees of key press. So if you think of like a gas pedal, you can determine with each key how much gas to give it. And I'll explain where that comes in a minute. The other thing that was interesting, it didn't quite pan out in my testing, and I'll just leave that as a software glitch for now, is you can integrate the keyboard controls with various smart devices. So for example, and I won't say the name because I don't want to trigger anything right now, you could say, assistant, switch to profile this, or switch assistant, change lighting to that. So if you think of different modes while you're gaming, this could make it much more immersive, right? You could switch modes without having to fumble for keys and hotkeys and remembering what those are. Just tell your digital assistant to switch to a different gaming profile. Like I said, I couldn't get that to work. I spent about an hour on it. I gave up for now. I'll revisit that later. Switching over to the software. So the Razer software for controlling everything is called Synapse. Go into the keyboard controls. You can set different modes. So do you want gaming mode or typing mode or some sort of custom profiles? But a really cool thing here is that you can also, for each key, really control at a granular level what happens with that key. So let me show you the key press. So here I just selected 2, but you can do it on anything. If you watch this bar here, right, based on how hard I press, I hope if I had my legs at the same level, okay, it can sense that. So if I only try to hold it half down, I can get a half press. So why is that important? One is you can emulate joystick bindings. So if you want to be able to have something that would normally be like a throttle control based on an analog input, you can do that from the keyboard. You can also set up custom travel range and custom trigger points. So one could be the key is not officially pressed until it reaches, let's say, a 3mm level, but you could have something else start to happen at a 2-meter level. So in between here and here, you can control what those actions are. And some of those actions are, besides the analog inputs, you could have it launch a program, for example, right? So if you got to a certain point and you needed to launch an external program for whatever reason, targeting or what have you, you can have that key press that. Or you wanted to have your own multimedia controls to mute instead of trying to remember that it's function, whatever to mute, function tab, you could just say press and hold 1, right? So this really lets you customize the gaming experience. And again, I'm looking forward to digging into that at a later date. So just to show you a little bit hands-on, and again, pardon my horrible gameplay as always here. But again, it's really responsive. Like I said, it's just a pleasure to type with you. If I have a word here for a second. I'm normally a touch typist, right? Now I normally use an ergonomic keyboard, so any mispresses have nothing to do with the keyboard itself. It's just because I'm used to having my hands at a different angle. Again, a great feel. I got to say, it's one of the best feeling keyboards I've had in a long time. And I'm really going to try to make this my everyday gaming system keyboard and get away from all the desk clutter of that giant keyboard that you saw in the previous pictures. What else can I tell you about it? Not much. That is a quick walkthrough and overview. It's well packaged. It seems well constructed. I had no problem with the software, found everything it needed to find and uploaded and installed that. Like I said, the only issue I had was trying to get the digital assistant tie-in to work, but okay, that's That's okay. It doesn't bother me. That's not what I bought it for. So that's all she wrote. Feel free to leave some comments below.